Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of one composition a day until we're all dead. Presuming there's any of you left, we have a real treat in store for you today. No, actually what it is that today I decided to do something. I don't know if it's cheating really, but there were a number of things that have come up, questions come up in the last couple of days about how I develop themes and how I orchestrate going from piano to an orchestra, that I thought, you know what, actually there's a way of demonstrating all of that, sort of to see what my process actually looks like if I'm working on a theme. And so what this is actually a theme that I actually developed probably this theme in like 1996. And I've never done anything with it because I never finished it. It never really had a B section. I could never figure out what was like where it was supposed to go. And I didn't have a particular reason to do anything with it. So since 1996, I've had this little, it's like half a theme in my head. And I'm sure I've played it in some of the master classes. And in fact, there was one master class that I was doing, and I came up with a little figure, and it was to illustrate something in a master class. And I just remember at the time being like, that should go with that other thing. And I just like, it was, so what is this, 20 years, 23, 24 years later? So I thought, okay, well, you know what? Today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to actually write a B section for that little theme, and I'm going to stick that thing into it as a little C section and just wrap the whole thing up into like a 2-minute, like if I was developing a theme, this is what it would sound like and this is what it would go. And further, the theme in my mind has a lot of driving motion in it, strings, it's got a real thing in it, like, you know, like everybody does. It's got a thing in it, which you can't really do on piano at the same time as play all the rest of it. So it's a good way to illustrate how, like, you'll feel that, like, you know, you'll feel that this would be way better when orchestrated, that the piano only does so good a job at approximating it, which is totally fine. But you'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear that there's clearly supposed to be an underlying, some sort of string or ostinato kind of figure moving it along. When it goes into its B section, you'll be able to tell I'm kind of quasi-arpeggiating the chords beneath it, so you'll tell this is supposed to flow more. You'll get a sense for what it would sound like, even though it's just on piano. And that's really important, so that you realize you don't have to go through the process of doing full mock-ups and all the rest of that in order to get the flavor of a piece. You really don't have to. So without further ado, here's one composition a day until we're all dead, number 3, that medieval theme kind of thing. All right, we'll talk about it when we're done. Okay, so, by the way, hi, buddy. Hi, there's my little boy checking in on the stream. Can't wait to see your thing on meteors, buddy. Love you. Anyway, so there you go. Is it rushed? I lifted that part from Jurassic Park. Did I? Oh, good. Whatever part that is. Did I? I'll take it. That's a good place to lift from. In any case, is it rushed? Is it clammy? Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be more than that. In fact, speed is more important. This isn't a recording. This is for you guys. It's just between us. So it doesn't matter that it's all whatever. Because if I'm writing, my goal is to get it down as quick as possible and go to paper. I could right now, put that on paper. It would take me, I don't know what, half hour maybe an hour, top like that. And that sheet could go right to an orchestrator and be on the stands before dinner. Because everything... And now I want to know, what part did I steal? This thing? Is that from Jurassic Park? Anyway, so in any case, the orchestration is all in there. And I can't take all day on the stream today as usual because I actually have shit to do. But nonetheless, as I talk about a lot, the orchestration is built in there. When I was starting the beginning of that thing and I was looking for that motion, I didn't do it up here. I did it here. And that's not something that you treat arbitrarily. That's the octave. That's where I wanted it. So if it's time to orchestrate, you don't just then arbitrarily do it in octaves or something else or move it to some other instrument. That's where it was, and that's where it needs to be. And obviously there's some reasons for it, and some of that is to clear the room for this. Now, like I said, the orchestration is in there. Just that melody. I didn't play the melody up here. That might be for some other time. But I played the melody right here in the middle of the range. And it's going to have some forcefulness to it, but it also obviously needs to be able to sneak in, because the beginning it's kind of... So what instrument, in that range can handle that full breadth of dynamic ranges? It can be powerful, it can be quiet, and it's really going to be sonorous and rich in that. That's got to be a horn line. It's got to be. For this type of material. That's answered for me. And so as you start to think, well, all right, and this D, who's that going to be? Could be cellos. They could be probably violas. Maybe violas and a couple of the cellos. It's not going to be violins. It's too low for violins. So we have a thing right there that lets us know what that is. You might, if you need more power, you might double that with, this stuff is clumsy on keyboard. But you know what it's not clumsy on? Vibraphone or marimba. Marimba if you want to add a little something in there that's going to round out some wood quality. A vibraphone if you just want a little piece of glue, a little metallic glue that just runs through that. Or possibly woodwinds. You put it between two players. So one player goes, and the other one goes. So so nobody's ever going. They just go three of them. And they just trade back and forth. That's how you do that, and nothing like that. So again, no arbitrary anything, and we want to keep it as thin as possible, because remember, the sexiest, most a resonant sound of an instrument is when it's playing all by itself. And if you sort of I take a very French school approach, which is do the most with the least. If you look at everything who's playing other than the main focus instrument is possibly detracting from it, then you won't overwrite. So you think, all right, well, if we're quiet, then viola's enough. If you have a big string section, I tend to use 10-10 or 16, 16, 12, 10, 8 tends to be my section. If you have that kind of section and you got the violas playing mezzo forte, they could probably hold their own against the horns. But as the intensity increases, well, now you might start layering onto that. Maybe it starts with just violas. Maybe the second time through, it's adding cellos for a little bit as the dynamic range starts to go up. That's one way of doing it. Using colors as dynamics is very powerful. You might not have to raise the dynamic range. You just have more people playing. So you could still have everybody in mezzo forte, but if you've got violas playing mezzo forte, but now it's violas and half the cellos, it's going to be louder just by its nature. Or maybe you go the other way. Maybe the melody is on horns that first time, but the second time maybe it's layered with something in the woodwind section. Maybe it's layered with clarinets. which will add another dimension to it, another quality to it. You'll feel the development of it orchestrationally. The volume will go up. Now he's actually got to play louder, and so you can save the volume for that. Those sort of little answer things, that could be trombones, that could be woods, that would be a nice thing, bring in the woods there. Bassoons, clarinets, that might be a nice answer and a way to introduce the woodwind. So then in your second, third time, now you're starting to bring the colors in, and you're increasing the intensity and the volume simply by virtue of bringing more players in without increasing the actual dynamic marking. Remember, if you haven't heard me say this before, because you haven't taken the orchestration classes, because shame on you, most of the best recordings, even the really super loud stuff, like treat forte like, gosh, don't, because you can make it as loud as you want to on a recording, but everything above forte tends to be less musical. It's just less musical. The instruments don't tend to sound as good. They don't have the same sort of technical facility. They can burn out their lips faster. And if you've ever been in a recording and you've really seen mezzo piano and mezzo forte can blow the speakers out if you want to jack up the gain. So you don't have to really think about how loud is it really. You have to think about how loud is it relative to every other dynamic marking. So my discipline now is I write the dynamic markings, okay, that's loud, and then no matter how much I think it's the wrong thing to do, it was Sean Murphy who taught me this, I go in the studio and I mark every dynamic marking down a half. So fortes become mezzo fortes, and mezzo pianos become pianos. And you look at it, I think it's going to be too quiet. Well, there's always a tendency in a recording session, especially after 2 or 3 takes, for people to go up in volume anyway. It's always easier, but it's harder to pull back. That little piece of advice has served me so well that it's like one of my 10 commandment things that I follow. So again, as we went through the melody, then we went up here. I don't remember what it is, something like, there you go. So from a color change, I'm already moved into a different range. Clearly this isn't going to be horns. Horns are now, it's out of their range, comfortable. They'd be screaming way up here to get high F, fuck that. So we've obviously changed to color. What is it going to be? Well, as you start thinking about contrasting colors, complementary colors, we've had a lot of brass. Clearly we're going to move out of the brass, at least to me, for this answer. This is either going to be strings or woods or both. With some of the strings, that's going to be arpeggiated strings and probably harp, very, very common. Possibly trombones, holding the glue chords, whatever that was. How's it go? So I can see me doing or so maybe off. And very quietly in trombones for glue, while maybe harp and strings are providing that arpeggio. And now we've got violins and violas probably just violins, both seats, doing the melody. Whatever it is. All of that is great range, great nice meat range for clarinets, for oboes, for violins. Nice color change, and again the orchestration is being derived from what I just naturally did. I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter. You could tell what I was going for if I'm going. Even when I'm playing it, I'm just kind of going. Because I'm not really focused on it, and I don't know it, and I'm not you can tell that's obviously some sort of flowing quality, which makes sense because the rest of it is right. So it's okay. I get it. Contrast in colors, contrast in ranges, contrast in percussiveness or rhythmic stuff. Nice answer there. Then we come back to the melody. So at this second time, when we're finally recapping the melody, that might be the time where now having set it and set it at that range, that might now be doubled on trumpets. That might be the first time I do an octave doubling in this piece that I didn't actually play. And again, I feel like that would be okay at this point because clearly it's a wrap-up. We've stated the melody, and I haven't overwritten. I've been saving the trumpets. Trumpets been sitting around with their thumb up their ass for the last minute. So that's maybe a good time to bring them in, and now the color is clear. There are also other things that you can do in that because you could move to doubling trombones partially. If you really wanted to, that'd be high, but you could do double trombones and horns if you really wanted that to be super powerful, but I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably keep the trombones in their chord and or bass note context so that they're free to go. All that stuff down there, let them be available with them and the tuba and the cellos to do all that stuff. So maybe they'd just be down here. They would have come from a chord context. It's a nice contrast for those players. They've been doing this. Whatever it is. Very common to then move them into a bass note heavy thing. Basses, cellos, trombones and tubas, bass clarinets, contrabassoons, all powering that bass. Maybe even now the piano's in there, timpanis down there, bum, bum, bum to act that. Okay, everybody's been saved. We've saved them, so they're nice and ready for that thing. And then that put us into this, the thing which I apparently left from Jurassic Park, which is good. It's a good steal. Again, let the range dictate it. We're dropping down, so it's not going to be just a question of dynamic range. It's going to be a question of fewer people, and maybe that is definitely going to have a woodwind color in it, a nice woodwind heavy color, some bassoons probably in it, in order to differentiate it from all the stuff at the beginning, which is very likely either just strings or heavily strings. Well, so and maybe that's pits in the bass. Boom. Maybe that's what it is, or that plus timpani very quietly. Want to reset. Don't let everything have at the wall. Contrast in volume and dynamics. That's part of drama and interest too. Again, follow your lead. This is where I play that. Now that could easily be horns. I wouldn't do horns, and I'll tell you why in a second. I would probably do strings and woods for that. And for this figure, part of the reason is because very likely, if you've taken counterpoint, this is a classic place where as that's going, that's like a counter melody. Is just ripe for it after you've introduced the idea and have moved it on. Because once I go to the F, your brain goes, oh, he's going to do this trick, which is why you are not surprised when I move it again, which is why I only did that for one bar before I moved it to the B. Because normally it's two, right? But it's always about what you expect and what you don't. So I'd set up a pattern, you were with it, and then I just say, fuck you, you don't know. I'm going to only do it for one bar, went up to the B that much faster. That's a cheap trick. It's really D minor and A major together, which functions like a D minor major seventh. But it's just another way to think about it. And then back to the... Like I said, so in the middle section there, I'm saving horns for a possible counter melody, which I don't have fingers to play with at the same time, but the context is ripe for them. Because when you have something that is so rhythmically simple and it's a pattern, when you're doing something that is so literally exactly the same thing, and it's just moved up a little bit, then a counter melody, which is long notes, whole notes, or whatever against it, is a nice welcome. It's a nice welcome second element that the ear can totally focus on with exactly as much intensity as it listens to the first thing, and it doesn't rob from the other because they're so disparate, and you need so little of your brain to stay connected to the first idea. What I didn't also play is we finally go back for that last recapitulation. Probably again doubled trumpets or something. Let that be big. That little bit in the end, it's bassoons and horns. So again, it is a very, very quick talking through some first impression orchestrational ideas. But what's important for me to just have said is that those ideas they're coming from what's naturally on the piano as I'm playing it. I'm not just assuming that everything needs more on it. Maybe not. It's probably just in that range, just that thing the way it is. So there you go. It's a serviceable little theme, I think. I can't tell. It's been 20 years of listening to it. I have no objectivity anymore, but it doesn't matter because that was in there and now it's out. And so the pipes are clean again. Or I've gone through the exercise of hammering out an idea. Do not beat yourself up just because you're ready to throw away 90% of your ideas. That is normal. That's how it goes. It's just not easy to write great music, and you got to clear the shit away so it can get out. So if you've got a lot of shit, get the shit out. Don't keep it, you know what I mean? Don't try to repress it. Let it out. So now this is out, and something I've been meaning to get to for 20 some years is now fucking out of it's out. I don't know what'll take its place, but finally that B section that I never ever did has now happened. So, that's hopefully a little, short little interesting lesson for you, and you can take something away from that. And now you go and write. Go write. Write every day, and if you can, and then you post it, and we'll go listen to it, and we'll give you a thumbs down or whatever you give. All right, well that's it for today. Sorry for the short day, but it is stuff to do. What with the death at the door, I mean, what are we doing, And tomorrow, day 4, I have no idea what I'm going to do for day 4. I didn't have any idea when I sat down today either. But we will see you then. And sorry, that's it for today. I got stuff to do. But bring your questions tomorrow, and then after the piece, I will happily answer them. And we'll all get better. And then by the time this whole thing is over, whoever of us are left, we'll just be masters of the universe when it comes to composing. And then destroy the dislike button. Smash that. God, everybody hates this guy. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.